Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Flash, Season 1, Episode 21, Grodd Lives, which I believe is a direct title reference to one of the King's Kong. The episode is rated TV-PG, so will this video be, other than the forthcoming YouTube video recommendation. And there will be spoilers for the Arrowverse leading up to and including this episode, not for anything that came after it. Another episode that I absolutely loved. So let us briefly do the... Yeah, so this time, the YouTube recommendation, we are in Pride Month. The episode doesn't lend itself to much of a reading, so I'm going to recommend a really fantastic YouTube video. True Blues, Feminization is Self-Improvement. And I will briefly go over there's a few deleted scenes on the disc for this one, and it is probably just cut for time. Basically, there's one where they talk about, I need to specify for those who haven't watched those deleted scenes, Kate and Barry talk briefly, and she talks about the dietary habits of the metahumans in the prison. And then there's one with Barry, right, that's them near the prison or in that basic facility. And then there's one with Barry standing inside the I actually don't know exactly what to call it, but the place that Eobard used to hide from the others in Star Labs. And she asks if he's trying to, he's kind of staring off into space, and she asks if he is trying to reach his aha moment, his eureka moment. And then they talk about how angry Iris is, and the, good stuff, just ultimately not completely necessary. And that brings us to the episode itself. So, yeah, I was indeed not disappointed by the treatment of... I mean, it hasn't... They're going to do more development of it, but so far it's already deeply compelling seeing Iris react to finding out the secret, and the way that she is... What am I trying to say? The way that he had lied to her for so long, and she even tests, she goes up to him. You've got that thing about, like, would you confront them or not? No, no matter what, nothing's ever going to be the same. And she, asks, do you think the Flash is doing everything that he can? And that she doesn't trust the Flash right now. Really, really great stuff. And I also appreciate that she actually does reveal that she knows not very long after, so basically she's been mulling it over for a week. And yeah, she gave him one more chance to come clean, and then does confront him. I've noted before, and this is something like a number of misogynists, some of them know and don't care, some of them just seem to not be able to wrap their heads around it. Women in your life don't want you to lie to them. Just be honest, Now, I feel like that pretty much... Yeah, it was great seeing, the Flash flashing around trying to find Eddie, and yeah, Eobard has really done a stellar job hiding the two of them. And I feel like the next thing is the talk about... Yeah, so they tell Singh that Eddie's taking some personal days, and they're working as fast as they can on the gold thefts. And that thing about, like, okay, just if someone can get a message to the Flash, could you tell him to her? Just, yeah, that was good. That was yeah. And let's see, I guess that does. Yeah, I quite appreciated this thing about like, well, they can't send cops after Eddie because what are they gonna do against Eobard? Like, we know that he will kill anyone in his way. So, yeah, that's a really great way to handle that. And yeah, so we have the masked man, trying to steal gold, and Barry gets there, but you know, psychic attack. And I thought they did a fantastic job on, because like that first time there wasn't quite enough information there. Like I at least personally did not deduce that was like I knew, from the title I knew that Grodd would be involved in the episode in one way or another, but I didn't realize immediately, not only later. Yeah, and the fact that the attack also whammied the Masked Man, and the fact that they didn't reveal who the Masked Man's true identity was there, and this thing of like, well, maybe that's a metahuman, really effective set of mysteries this episode. And yeah, Iris confronts him, and I appreciate the honesty in depicting that these two scientists will rationalize listening in, by the transitive property. And let's see. Yeah, and also, these Arrowverse shows continue to do a really good to great job writing women. Really misogynistic piece of media would have Iris like screaming incoherently or something, but like everything she said, makes perfect sense. She is making such great points. And yeah, I've talked about before, and to be clear, before I say the following, this is not a channel that has any tolerance whatsoever for gender essentialism. I am talking about socialization. That's it. Not socialism, not this particular case. Women are often a lot better communicators than men, and I think that does bring us to the right now I forget, is that when they start talking about the psychic attack, or is that a little later? I'll briefly cover it here in the video, but yeah, I kind of love how wonderfully sci-fi and comic book sci-fi at that this show is. Like, I don't know, Barry. I do not know for sure person with super speed who is a titular character of a TV show that ran for 9 seasons. I am willing to try, but I cannot guarantee that I can effectively make something that can prevent telepathic attacks. Like, that's such a wonderful, like, feels like I just opened a comic book. Like, that is, I can see the speech bubble around it. Just amazing. And I feel like that's where, is that the part where Eobard calls Eddie the only loser in the entire line? Like, wow, that's, so I mean, at least we know now he's not only a jerk to his like actual enemies, like this is like his great grandfather or something, and it's like probably more. That's another great. And let's see. Yeah, the thing about like apparently he hasn't fed him for I guess the whole week that he's been a captive, and now he's talking about like, well, 2 months would still be fine. No love lost there, huh? And let's see. I guess that pretty much Yeah, he's even like, well, you're not gonna marry Iris, just check the byline, and yeah. Which also, like, I can imagine if right now, I think by the end of this season, Eddie will be rescued or possibly help rescue himself or something, but his relationship to Iris is going to be completely different now that he knows that, it's that, classic sci-fi trope of knowledge of the future changing everything. And the fact that I think in time Iris is going to, her anger will dissipate and she will start focusing on, she at least used to have very positive feelings for both Barry and the Flash, and now she finds out they're the same person. Like, I think that is, I don't know if they're gonna like get married next season or something. I can imagine it'll be longer, but yeah, and I think they can do something, that the show can do something really compelling with that. And also because the fact that Eobard, like, they devoted some screen time to Eobard just dressing down Eddie, and I wouldn't rule out that that's going to make Eddie maybe more reckless in the future or something, and I don't know, maybe even villain turn, or heel turn, is that what the wrestlers call it? And yeah, that brings us to, so the ice cream van. Yeah, I gotta say, turn off the music if you don't want to attract customers. Like, what are you even doing? And you just see, this woman walks up, and there's the point about the music, and you just see the look on her face as she's told no ice cream. She's like, do you have any idea how long I've been taking care of these kids? How excited they got when they saw the ice cream man, when they heard the jingle? Like, could you just turn it off then, please? Like, there's a lot of other really frustrated, tired teachers, babysitters. Like, yeah, I guess teacher, huh? Must be. Would a babysitter have that many kids around? Anyway, I feel like there's at least one more thing about. No, yeah. So that's when the masked man, you know, landmines, and yeah, he lands a mine on this land a mine, and that's a really silly. That doesn't even make sense. I'm not Native American. Whatever. Anyway, uh yeah. So we have the bit with okay, I just have to get the following out of my system. So yeah, earlier in the episode we found out that as far as Yabard, as far as Eddie getting anything to eat, it's been 1 week. I am very sorry. I just rewatched 10 Things I Hate About You. The song stuck in my head. Now, I feel like I am not apologizing for rewatching that movie, just for making a terrible joke. I have watched that movie so many times and I can keep watching it. Anyway, I think that does bring us all the way to so yeah, they managed to they wound the masked man, and Barry, yeah, knocked the masked man off. He didn't even know it was Eileen. I feel like that's something he might have done even if he knew, possibly even knocked him harder. And yeah, the thing about communicating, and they find out, and yeah, Eileen bad, Caitlin good, and she's like, thank you. Amazing. 10 out of 10. And let's see. The I don't know. I mean, even if the compliment is coming from a mind-controlled enemy of yours who's speaking words that are not their own, still nice to be complimented, you know? And I think that does bring us nicely to the yeah, so they realize that this is Grodd. Cisco gets a chance. I think this has to be the most Cisco movie references in any one episode so far. Like, I wonder if someone was just sitting on them or was like, it could be a long time before we do another Grodd episode. I'm gonna fire all these off. I'm not complaining. And let's see, the that's when they talk to the yeah, and also the thing about like he didn't even react to having Bullet removed. And yeah, so they set about finding Grodd, and we get some backstory. And yeah, I liked it. I think it was Joe who noted, you know, oh, at least our killer has a soft spot for animals. I know that's not a direct quote. And then we have the, let's see, what was the other thing? There was at least one more thing surrounding, yeah, so yeah, the thing about like, you know, so I'm walking through a sewer, count me out. I mean, count me in. And yeah, you know, it does seem like just, you know, truly repulsive walking through just this sewer full of just like it's got to be the absolute worst, like almost as bad as like trying to read a incel form or something. And let's see, I believe that does get us to the yeah, they did a fantastic job on for all the movies that Cisco referenced, he didn't reference the following, which means that I am contractually obligated to do so. So in that scene, you know, they note he wrote on the walls. What do you mean he wrote on the walls? He's an animal, man. You cannot possibly tell me that I'm the only person who thought of that particular movie and those couple of scenes from this. But they even have like the camera falling on the ground, like people back in the control room, like trying to figure out what's going on, how to best get control of the situation back. And yeah, Joe is captured, and the others do get away, but Barry is completely knocked out. Yeah, that's when they make the anti-telepathy thing. And I guess that does it. Yeah, I appreciated the thing about like you know, so yeah, he has Joe point the gun at himself, but also show trigger discipline, so that's nice. And, you know, banana is offered. And so apparently, okay, the banana is bad, but the gun is not good. Okay, so we're not dealing with Zardoz then. And what was the other thing? Let's see. There's the there's at least one more thing there. But what on earth was it? It was the yeah, really great job on the CG for Grodd. I love the choice to keep him so much in darkness. That really helped hide, you know, like on a TV show budget, there's only, you know, even 2015, they could only do so much to make it completely convincing. And I do also appreciate, like, other than CG, like, how could they possibly do it? You know, there's no way to do it with an actual gorilla. as much as I love stop motion, I appreciate that that is not, there's a lot of people who do not want to see that in 2015 and onwards. But many of them young, so show is primarily for young'uns. I guess that is when the, yeah, so they, let's see, they have the, yeah, so they strategize, and it's genuinely clever about the supersonic punch. And I will say I did feel like there's probably something's going to happen so it doesn't work. I didn't figure out exactly what would, but I do really appreciate that they got to it fast, so that, I don't think I was the only person who figured, like, just gonna have it work like that, and that is also clever because, like, yeah, he is moving really fast, but Grodd is incredibly smart, so realized what's about to happen and, deployed countermeasures. And yeah, it was really effective the way that so it's, let's see, the thing gets knocked off his head a couple of times and eventually ceases operations. I really appreciated that later, Cisco's like, I failed, and Barry pointing out, no, we won though, it worked. The bands of anti-Sitarak, absolutely, that does not make any sort of sense. Wow. I swear I got enough sleep last night. Anyway, I've been rewatching the animated 90s X-Men, show, since the new season of the new show is coming out, and literally earlier today watched one of the Juggernaut episodes. So anyway, I believe that pretty much gets us to, let's see. Yeah, also just really great stuff during the fight. This thing of, once again, having the flash off against someone who has some kind of power or ability that makes them interesting, and yeah, huge, really strong, really smart gorilla who can do psychic attacks. That is, yeah, moving fast is not automatically do it. He even tries a bunch of speed punches, and yeah, ultimately it looks like he might even die. The train is coming in, and let's see, that's and Iris, does the pep talk. Love that she is doing, and in part she's doing it because her father's life is on the line. But also, as angry as she is at Barry, she doesn't want him dead. Which, once again, like, I've seen misogynistic media that is like, oh, if you, like, slightly annoy a woman, she'll want you dead, she'll want you tortured, and it's just completely ridiculous. And I've literally had that exact experience with significantly more guys. Like, seriously unreal. Anyway, in school, not so much recently, thankfully, but yeah, and genuinely clever, using the train against Grodd. And I think that does pretty much bring us, oh, right, so Eiling, telling Barry, he knows he's the Flash, and then points out, I've known for months, if I was gonna come after you, I would have. Mention of Diggle and Lila, and I quite appreciate that, the people who know Dig the best. Well, Lila calls him Johnny, but other than that, people who know him really well call him Dig. But, these couple of characters don't know him that well yet, so for now it's Diggle. I can imagine it'll change down the line. And yeah, talking about Argus covering up this whole thing was, yeah, checks out. And Honestly, so far, I think they're doing such a great job just having, every so often they'll have a reference to the other of these two shows will reference the other one. That it hasn't like gone overboard or anything. And I mean, there are entire episodes where they do not reference the other show. I guess that does pretty much go. Yeah, what a tease at the end with, time to go home. Now, I figure he might still need Barry's help in some way. I mean, obviously, there's some explanation for why he's not. This I feel fairly confident saying. I haven't watched past this episode yet, but I do not believe that he will just have traveled back to the future, by the next episode. I suppose it's also possible that there isn't an entire week between them or something, but yeah. Right. It was great seeing the talk about, Joe talking about how much he loves Iris, and yeah, the thing about like, wait, so my dad knew this whole time, and him, pointing out the thing about Barry having feelings for her, that was not his secret to tell. I think that does pretty much cover the entire episode. Yeah, I felt like they did a great job building up to Grodd, and part of it is this thing of like, every second he's on screen, it's CG, and they can only do so much of that. But they find the lair, they hear him talk through Eiling, stuff like that. Very, very effective. I think that does pretty well cover. Um, I like Cisco saying, "Am I the only one around here who watches movies?" And Iris just being like, "Okay," and moving on from that. And right, I think wasn't this also where Joe said, "You and your movies," or something, Cisco and his movie, something like that. And I guess that does cover the right. Also very cool that so Eiling is now gorilla hunting, which I'm not sure that's going to go well for him, but he's not the most best at like thinking all of these things through. And I think that does pretty well cover the oh, there was also super cool seeing Grodd, leap from, at the camera. That definitely felt like, I mean, so I've pretty much already said it, but yeah, Gorilla Grodd, obviously there's some King Kong going on there. I'm not saying it's like a ripoff or something. There's some significant differences, the psychic powers and, higher intelligence level and such. But yeah, comics, video games, some movies as well. They like to latch onto something cool from another piece of media, or just sometimes it's or yeah, sometimes within the same medium, sometimes not. And I mean, honestly, I think it would be a huge shame if there was not at least one King Kong like in a comic story. Yeah, I feel like that does pretty well cover everything. So, yeah. The right, the part where Cisco, he's all about the multi-part questions, this guy. He's like, okay, so what was the lair like? did he eat the banana? You know, and Joe just has to honestly answer, well, taking those questions in order, no and Spain.